All right. Welcome to Webinar Wednesdays with Horses and Humans Research Foundation. I'm Dr. Pebbles Turbyville, and today we're going to be hearing from the Equine Well-being Committee. So I'm going to turn it over to Joanne Miller. Take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our annual recap of the HHRF Equine Well-being Committee. For those of you who don't know, the HHRF Well-being Committee is a group of like-minded volunteers following their passion with hundreds of hours of education and experience from all over the country and abroad. Members of our committee and their special interests are, and if you're on, can you put your camera on so you can wave to everybody so everybody has a face to go with the person? Chair is Molly Sweeney. Molly, gonna wave to everybody? Molly is the founder of HHRF and a special interest in the way the equine brain works. Co-chair is Marcy Wild. Marcy is waving. She's on the board of directors of HHRF and has many published articles, and she has a special interest in nutrition. Trish, is Trish on? Trish is not on, but she's from Riding and Beyond, and her work focuses on deepening the human-horse relationship, specifically with the horse's willingness, wisdom, and enthusiasm for interactions with people. Arnu, I know that he's having trouble. He is from Spain, and he joined, there he is, wave Arno to everybody. He joined our group from Spain, and he joined us last year, and he's looking for a deeper understanding of the horse-human interactions and their impact on the horse's health and well-being. Jenny is not on. She's been having some health issues, but she coaches all abilities and skill levels at the elite level, especially interested in physical health of the horses and especially lameness. Kathy, who's going to be speaking with you today, is a master instructor, Kathy Waven, Reiki master specializing in the physiology of the physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual balance of the human-horse interaction. And last but not least is Anna, our newest member. She brings a great knowledge of horse behavior backed by science and how it affects the mental health of the horses. And then myself, I'm Joanne Miller. I'm a professor of equine science with a special interest in horses in the wild and how we can recreate their environment in our human environment. So all year we've spent our passion of looking at current evidence-based research on how we can create a state of well-being so our horses are healthy and happy, both physically and emotionally. We share our work through education at conferences in both classroom and arena presentations, through educational webinars and symposiums, both internationally and at home in our own regions and all over the nation and obviously internationally. Before I get started, please put any questions in the chat box you have. We'd love to answer them. I'm going to begin by asking Kathy to share what research our committee has been concentrating on this year. Kathy?
Wonderful, thank you. So some of the things we shared this year, we talked a lot about the 5 domains model of equine welfare and what they are and how to use them. Dr. David Mellor from New Zealand, he studies the science of animal welfare, and he helped develop the 5 domains. Previously, the 5 domains were written as the 5 freedoms, and he took the time to write to Molly, who had reached out to him today as one of our activities of our committee, and explained the transition from calling this model the changing the value to domains instead of freedom. And we'll go into that a little deeper in a few minutes. The 5 domains being nutrition, environment, health and fitness, behavior, and the mental state created by those 4 states. Welfare is assessed as negative, neutral, or positive, and most standards are worded to prevent a negative welfare state, and this only ends up addressing the physical state of wellness. The 5 domains were worded to promote a positive welfare state that includes the mental and emotional wellness. The 5 domains also help us to assess the horse's relationship between his environment, other horses, and people. The important part of this for me, as we our committee created a PowerPoint presentation, which we presented at several conferences. And I'm sure some of you have caught some of what we've done. And we each would take a piece of this and present a PowerPoint around it, and with wonderful effects and reaching out to many people we presented in Ohio, Colorado. I know Trish presented in Washington. I presented in Maine. All of us go out to our regional activities and present this also. So the 5 domains and it's about assessing the relationship, which is learning about reading the horse, and that we bring in from there the tools of assessment that we have shared would be the Henneke weight scale. We're teaching people how to put their hands on the horses in 6 different places on both sides and assess the level of fat cover, and understand that on a scale of 1 to 9, ideal wellness would be assessed at 4.5 or 5, and less than that and more than that would be a lack of wellness, and going to add stress or strain on the horse physically, mentally, emotionally, and affect how he interacts with his environment, other horses, and people. And again, continuing ways to assess that. The facial pain scale, facial recognition of what muscles indicate what mental state. All of these things helping people understand and give examples of it. And those were the probably the most important tools that we used. And then really reaching out all over the world to bring in more opinions, more knowledge, more expertise. And one of the things, so at the beginning of the year, Arnu joined our committee. And Pebbles, if you wouldn't mind, could you share how you met Arnu and how you guys got connected in Spain and France, or wherever you were?
I was at a international congress in Spain, and it was all in Spanish. And even though I speak very little Spanish, Arnu was there, and he is very fluent in English. So he translated a lot of the presentations for our group. That I think there was 3 of us that were English speaking. So he had a statement, and I was like, you get it, and you know about horses, and you understand what our equine well-being group is talking about, and you need to be on our committee. So yeah, I wrote to him from there.
So Arnu, could you just tell us a little bit about meeting our group, and kind of how has it changed your work, or what do you think about being part of our group?
That's a loaded question.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to be brief. It has brought a lot to my horsemanship. It has given me a deeper understanding of what is it that I'm looking for. It has changed the way that I interact with the horses here at home, but as well with clients' horses. It has given me hope for the future. It has allowed me to meet wonderful people. And most importantly, I would say is the fact that we're making a big contribution in what the future of horsemanship looks like, and the interactions between humans and horses. So those, I think, are the main things that have influenced me joining and being part of this wonderful group of human beings. Yeah, that would be it.
That's awesome. So I get excited just listening to who we are and why we're here together. And I also get a little overwhelmed, but if you gathered up all the hours of knowledge and wisdom that are represented in the people on the screen here, it's absolutely amazing. And I think it's having an impact out into the horse world and beyond, as it's, you know, horses and humans. And it's just, I find it exciting. And the other exciting addition to our group was Anna. Anna and Joe, do you mind jumping in for a minute and just say, you know, kind of how you got here and why you're here and how it's what do you think it, you know, you either get from or affect our group?
I'll just start by saying that Anna is my employee, which I'm thrilled that she is, and so I'm kind of her mentor. She brought some to my arena one day. She brought horse agility, which we always think of jog agility, but she brought horse agility with the idea that the horses need to be at liberty and have a choice and bring choice. So I kind of brought that to our committee, and we invited her to come with us to the Temple Grandin Center to explore her ways of thinking. And I'm going to turn that over to Anna.
Yeah, so I'm very into the horse human partnership and letting the horse have a choice and be able to express themselves. And so kind of being under Joe, kind of learning little things she was saying. And I was always the one in her office. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And so kind of getting involved and meeting everybody at the Temple Grandin Center. It was nice to meet people that were like-minded, and I was not a crazy horse person, but there were other people that thought the same way. So it's just been an honor to be a part and kind of help kind of bring, you know, a better life for the horse and kind of help push all of that forward.
Awesome. Well, and the one of your gifts is that you're at the beginning of your career, where many of us are further along, and being able to support, promote, and join forces with younger people was also one of the things we are reaching out and trying to create. And one quick, I always have horse stories. I was very appreciative this year of being able to help a horse find a home as part of Joe's herd at her farm. And just that whole day of bringing the horse down, well, getting his paperwork, getting everybody on board and creating that situation, then bringing him down and letting him meet your herd and watching that, and your whole staff watching it, and all of us watching how he figured out how to be a horse and how to introduce himself into the herd was an amazing experience, and kind of a unique, one of a kind of experience that just made me feel so good. And just being a part of that and what that brings to our group, I think is really awesome. And I know, and I think, and you guys just bring that to the group. I don't know how to put that into scientific jargon that well, but it's a unique group and a unique atmosphere of partnering with the horse and the well-being of the horse. So I'm really appreciative of having you join our group and be part of that. And it's really fun being part of that. So as part of the committee, we agreed to uphold the values of care, accountability, respect, excellence, and cultural competency, blending with the culture of where we are. So we read and discuss research papers and books. Probably this year, we're always talking about people and research and books, but the ones that we got the most out of this year tended to be a lot about mental and emotional influences. One of them being evidence-based research by Dr. Stephen Peters and Martin Black I know that both Molly and I have done some have his of the online presentations of theirs and read the book, and he talks about the science behind all of the things that we're talking about. So it's a great source of science and research, and also of how it feels, and what that looks like in the behavior, and that understanding that behavior is information. It's not the minute we start saying, well, it's bad and you need to stop it, it stops becoming evidence and starts and we just judge it. And that doesn't mean that we don't keep ourselves safe. We're always keeping ourselves safe, and we're looking at the evidence and the information that's behind a behavior. One of the other books was Language, Signs, and Calming Signals of Horses by Rachel Drysma. Rachel also wrote a book about scent work with horses, and understanding the signals that horses give off that are either escalating or de-escalating from fight and flight to rest and release. Again, really important to help people learn how to read the signs. I was reading a research paper recently, and they were talking, they did a questionnaire. They did an experiment with a questionnaire, with the questionnaire given to the caretakers and owners of over 300 horses to write down any signs of these calming or escalating signals in horses, and stereotypical, yes, you know, cribbing, weaving, biting, stall walking, all of these, what they noticed, how many times, and they did it for, they did 18 hours of observation with over 300 horses, and then they sent in trained ethologists to observe the behavior of the same horses, and they found that the owners didn't recognize the behaviors that they saw, and it was the ethologists were able to identify much more behaviors than the owners. And so there's a gap there that we're looking at helping people to understand. The other book was Horse Brain, Human Brain by Janet Peters. And again, helping people understand how the horse's brain works compared to how the human brain works. And that's probably one of the biggest places that we need to look for growth and understanding in. We also invited a lot of guests to join our committee meetings and learn from them. And we were going to share a few of those. Barbara Rector, Adventures in Awareness from Arizona. She pioneered the studies of the horse and human bond with messages of compassion, heart-centered work, communication skills, and telling your truth without judging what's going on. With Barbara, I've been a fan of Barbara's for many years, and I've read her books and her programs and listened to her research and listened to her speak. And at one of the conferences we did, we were doing a wrap up, and I did an example. I wanted to do a hands-on example of speaking from the heart. And we were just sitting around in a group with a good audience, and when our words come from our mind, so it would be, you know, just thinking and saying things, how often do our words just represent what we're thinking, and how often do you, I with the person's permission, I put my hand on their arm and I spoke from my heart and just said, you know, I'm so grateful to be here and share this with you today. And just, it feels different than saying things just through your mind. And with the horses, it's the same thing. And so when we talk about heart-centered, what does that mean and how does it feel? And Barbara gave her feedback on how she brings that into her teaching with the horses. And I know I love it, and I hope other people have experienced her work. Nashun Cook was another surprise for us. He has a Facebook page. It was actually Arnu who listened to him on Warwick Scheller's Journey On podcast and brought him his name, and we reached out to him and invited him to join as a guest speaker, and we read one of his books and listened to some of his teaching. And again, he's young. He grew up in inner city Denver, and someone through a youth program found his unique abilities to work with the horses, and the education he's received since then, and the way he interacts with both people and horses is beautiful. And he described I love the way that he described his style. He describes his style as lyrical, mesmerizing, like poetry. And in fact, he writes poetry in his books. And the name of his book is Horses See Us As We Are. And one of the other statements is very thought-provoking. And he said, the horse has the answer to the question we're asking. And, again, kind of makes you think a little bit. We spoke with someone from the Equus Foundation and discussed how do they support rescues, and how do they describe how have they changed their standards to become even better stewards for the horses entire life, and how do we protect that to prevent horses from showing up at auctions going for meat after they've been through a rescue. And so she described the end of life care that they put into their standards that they pass on when they support a rescue, which again it was really wonderful to be able to get that sort of feedback. Another organization we reached out to and spoke with was Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, and they understanding stewardship in different cultures, which again, I think is very important. We have to remember that the world is bigger than just our country, and there's many different issues to consider when you're in a different part of the world. And that's why it's been fun having Arnaud, who helps us think what's going on over there, and gives us a peek into what happens in different places in the world. I know Molly attended Natural Lifemanship, which is nearby in Texas. And their programs, although I haven't been there, I've read as much as I could and listened to their online work. And they talk a lot about what a horse is and what a horse is not, and how are we different, and really going into, again, not just the physical, but the mental and emotional aspects of what that is. Made a new friend, Paul Hefner, down in Virginia. His program's called Riding Far. Paul is a sports psychologist, and he works with a lot of fearful humans and a lot of fearful horses. He and his son together are running a business and just doing wonderful work. I sat in on one of their clinics, and I walked away from there with a new appreciation of really talking to people. And I realized in many instances, I spent more time reading the horse and getting feedback from the horse than I did the person. And you know, we go into a lesson teaching a physical skill, and it gave me much more appreciation of checking in and saying, you know, how are you in this moment, and how are you in the next moment, and how are you in the next moment, and really taking the time to be there with the person in that moment, in whatever way we're qualified to do. I'm not a sports psychologist, so I wouldn't do that, but I would have a greater awareness of how the person's feeling and how it's reflected in the horse, and then helping the horse to understand what's being asked of them, and helping the person to understand what they're going through. Equine Gulf University in Canada was another speaker that we had, and they're creating equine education programs, putting the welfare of the horses first. And again, this ties in with everything we're doing, and it was great to hear the not just the struggles, but also the people that they're able to reach out to. Stefan Peters was is an Olympic dressage rider, and he spoke to us, and we asked him, what's the most important information that you wish everyone knew? That's kind of what we ask everybody. And it was really interesting to hear about how does he take care of his horses as he travels all over the world, and how does he help them, you know, and what's his relationship with his vet, and what are the, when he goes beyond veterinary care into body work, what's the body work that he's shared with his horses, and how did he find those people, how did he choose, and what was effective, and understanding, he said he probably wouldn't have the wonderful horses that he has if he hadn't gone deeper into their mental, emotional, and physical wellness.
So Kathy, we have a question in the chat box. It says, what was Stefan's answer to the question?
Develop trust, breathe, and pause. Yeah. So, and I think, you know, developing trust is really about going deeper, and then pausing. When you pause and breathe, you can listen on a different level. Okay, I'll take a breath here. Are there any other questions going forward that need to be addressed? I'm kind of just reading, but okay.
One more quick question. Did they do formal presentations for you guys, or was that just kind of an informal presentation for the committee?
So we have a little bit of a process. We talk about these different people that we meet and work with, and then we invite them to come and speak to us pretty informally. And then if we beg them and they have the time, we convince them to do a webinar like we're doing now. So that's kind of our process. And not everybody is available, even so we invited Dr. Stephen Peters, and his schedule is so busy, we signed him up for 2025, right, Molly? Yeah. I don't know if that, so yes, whenever we can.
We have Dr. Peters in March for a webinar, but we're hoping to get him to do some type of workshop in
the
2025.
workshop. Okay. Yeah. So whenever we can, we ask them to volunteer to do a webinar, which we present to everybody in these free webinar Wednesdays. So we do our best to get people to do that. Not everybody has the time to do that. And the scheduling of that, as Pebbles would share with you, is takes a lot of work to get everybody scheduled in and with their availability. Marcy and I went to the human animal interaction conference in Green Chimneys in Brewster, New York this year, and we had an amazing time. And again, their focus was about going beyond the physical needs and what does that look like. My aha moment from there, well, one was the people, the speakers that they got were absolutely phenomenal and wonderful, and I highly recommend their conferences. And we worked with one of the camels there, and I used the camel as an example instead of the horses, only because the camels have demanded, working with camels demands going beyond physical connection. And because you can't make a camel do some stuff, they're really big and it just doesn't work. So they've gone out of their way, and I think they've had camels there now for about a dozen years, and they have looked for camel trainers all over the world and contacted people at all the centers, well, anywhere that raises and trains camels and people who work with the camels, and they have really gone way above and beyond to find the best people and work with them consistently all the time. And they've added an element to their camel work that I just thought was beautiful, and the camels are really responding both physically, mentally, emotionally. And so they had us sit in a circle around the camel at the end, and they invited the camel to come and lie down in the middle of our circle, which he did. And then the handler kneels down in front of the camel and invites the camel to come into a full resting position with his neck fully stretched out and his chin on the ground. And the camel doesn't do that until the handler kneels in front of him, and we began a moment of silence and went into meditation. And as the whole group began to quietly breathe and meditate with the camel gently laid his neck on the ground, fully stretched out, and then his chin on the ground. And it was just a beautiful, again, heartfelt moment of sharing space in present moment, sharing space with the camel and people from all over the world who attended the conference. And it was a beautiful thing. And it's the kind of thing that unless you're really connecting physically, mentally, emotionally, you're pausing, breathing, trusting, it can't happen. And so that was my aha moment from that conference. And for me personally, as a Reiki master, Reiki is just about love. And I follow the principles of being a Reiki master. And those are to do no harm, to be accountable, to practice non-judgment, and to create a benefit for the greatest good, learning, sharing, teaching, relaxing. And one of the things that I find Reiki is most useful for is for relaxation. And when we're in that state of mind, which is your the sympathetic, parasympathetic relaxation, allows you to be curious, seeking new answers and information. And even if you go back to Rachel Draisma's book on scent training and calming signals, seeking is scent training is they're looking for a scent, and that's seeking behavior, and that you're physically, mentally, emotionally in balance when you're in that seeking behavior. And those are the kind of things that we reach out to people and want to share with everybody. We attended the Path Region 10 conference. That was a 2-day presentation in Denver, both in the classroom and in the arena. One of the takeaways from there, the facility was amazing. That was the Temple Grandin Center. The staff was phenomenal. The horses were absolutely lovely. And the takeaway is that they struggle with the same wellness issues as everybody else. their environment is restricted for turnout, and then they're always looking for the ways to assess and manage stress and looking to change behavior. So their horses had some stressed behavior, possibly related to their lack of turnout or work. You know, we don't know, but they had horses that cribbed or stall walked and that kind of stuff. So just, it's not just about the money or the time or the resources. It's about using the 5 domains to look at all the different things and looking for those ways that we can change behavior by assessing through our process of assessing. We also attended the PATH pre-conference and again had an amazing group, and we did 6 hours of presentation with 10 different people from both the education and the well-being committee. And we discussed the implementation of research-based science into programs, into the participants, into volunteers, centers, and horses. And for each of these talks, we offered practical ethical solutions with holistic approaches that identify and navigate for change. The attendees gained a deeper understanding of financial and economic impact that translated into growth and sustainability. And the long and the short of it was we used the 5 domains, but also the expertise from everybody on our committees to gain the greatest impact. And we had so much fun that it was a blast. We also attended the HHRF conference. One of my takeaways from there was with Dr. Mike Tomlinson, and he spoke on sleep deprivation in horses. And the simple task of observing how, when, and where your horse sleeps is an amazingly good tool to assess wellness. And I just think that it's such a simple way to, and I always did it automatically. I just always knew what horses were laying down where and when, and helping people to understand the science of REM sleep and how much they need, and understanding that they don't get REM sleep unless they're lying down. So just, you never know where these little gems can pop up and influence our ability to assess our horses. You know, and I just started, it was one of those things at the center where I've worked. I would say, make sure that you did the horse lie down last night. Has he laid down at all? You know, and how much did he lie down? Where did he lie down? It's not a hard thing to figure out, and it's a really good thing to understand. Other conferences that we presented at, I think I mentioned Region 1, Region 9, heard the HEDI, the EAS, and American Horse Council. I think all of us on our well-being committee have reached out and go to other conferences. I know I bought Cheryl's book. Pebbles, how do we pronounce Cheryl's last name before I murder it?
It's Mayola.
Mayola. So Mayola's book, Integrating did I write that down? Integrating Horses into Healing. Sorry about that. It's comprehensive guide to EAS. And the reason I mentioned Cheryl, because I love the book, and she did it in partnership with HHRF, again, which is amazing, and the proceeds benefit HHRF. Cheryl has a psychotherapy practice specializing in equine assisted therapy and wellness. And the book is a collaborative effort written by multiple expert and practitioners, each writing a chapter on how they have partnered with horses in a way that promotes healing for both the horses and humans. So I think it's an amazing collaborative effort that where each effort is written from a different perspective. Again, that's unique. I don't know where else you could accumulate all of that wisdom and put it into a book about horses and humans. There's just so much in there. It's quite amazing. So I know she's doing a talk later this month that I think it would be really wonderful to hear feedback about the book and how it was collected and gathered and worked on. Pebbles, would you share a little bit about your experience in France this year?
Yes, France was a blast. And the fact that, number one, it was an international symposium. And we had presenters from France and England, Ireland, I'm trying to think where, well, in America. And it was just a great session, very relaxed setting. We were in an arena that's beautiful, that we were able just to present in a very casual form. And it was also the thing about Horses and Humans Research Foundation is that we're all about collaboration and connection. And so that's one of the reasons why we have such a relaxed environment, so that people can collaborate and connect, because research should not be done in just a little bottle. And people need to share it. They need to share what they have discovered, share their hurdles or issues, as well as things that didn't work out. So, a lot of times we're all about, which we are, rigorous research and getting published, but at the same time, we need to share things that maybe didn't go right, so that people don't repeat those things. And if we stay in our own little bubble and don't, share that aspect, that's a whole nother issue. So the symposium was great. And then we partnered along with Brave Hearts, who does a Trail to Zero ride with veterans. The program is all about bringing awareness to veteran suicide, because in America, 20 veterans a day commit suicide. And so that's why they call it the Trail to Zero, because they want to bring that suicide down to zero. So they typically, Bravehearts does the Trail to Zero 20 miles. And when they do like New York or Dallas or Chicago or any of Washington, D.C., any of the big cities. But since we were in Europe and they do kilometers, we decided to do 20 kilometers around Deauville, France, and which is about 10 miles. And then the next day we went to Normandy area and rode 20 kilometers there, which is 10 miles and part of it was on Utah Beach, which is a landing beach for D-Day during World War II. So it was pretty phenomenal event. We had veterans from France, of course, the United States, England, and Ireland. As I'm trying to think if we had anybody from Scotland, but I'm thinking we did. So yeah, we had a great representation from the UK and France. So it was a phenomenal event.
Awesome. Thanks, Pebbles.
Mm-hmm.
So some are, kind of the takeaways from this year have been about seeking to go deeper. When we asked participants at our conferences, you know, what do you need from us going forward? And it's, so we take the model of the 5 domains and go deeper into each topic, and giving examples and putting them to use, and then seeking out like-minded people, really looking to understand, to know, and experience ourselves, others, and horses physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Being brave enough to really tell the truth and lead by example. What does that even look like? And Pebbles had, at the HHRF conference, she encouraged everybody to be the bridge that brings people together and to grow and to take one step forward. And if you think about with our horses, that there may be a horse you can bring to mind that didn't really want to step forward. How do we get them to step forward? And just pulling on them isn't the answer. It's asking those horses to step forward with willingness, and noticing if do they refuse? Do they tolerate being pulled forward? Do they comply with it? Or are they truly willing? And taking that step forward. The way the 5 domains model helps, I was shown yesterday by a little feral donkey and his owner, and she just wanted to use clicker training, but she didn't know how to read the donkey's relaxation or understand what the donkey needed to do to be relaxed. And I was able to share that with her and help her understand the science of relaxation, which the 5 domains teaches, versus a method of training which helps the person to organize knowledge, but she didn't read the donkey. So it's the bringing those tools together. Clicker training is great, but the donkey wasn't relaxed and she was missing his signals. So by understanding the signals, she could use clicker training more effectively. And I was able to help her do that. So the science of the 5 domains is a model that really supports the horses, and the deeper the human can go into doing that, they will be able to take that next step forward and find the truth of how to do this together as a group, and reaching out to everybody. So that's what the committee's about. That's how we work in the promoting the HHRF. And certainly I'd love to hear feedback from any suggestions about our work going forward this year, and or a guest that might be interested in sharing their ideas with us, or anything else. Or Joe, do you have anything else to add?
I think one of our mottos this year was do what you know until you know better. And I think that was kind of what, because we always do what we already know what to do, how to do. But I think just being open to learning new things and then trying to instigate them. And I think of one of our, I'm very big into the horse environment, and I study how horses live. So when Kathy was talking about my herd, they live as a wild herd on 60 acres. So they're turned out together, mares and geldings 24/7. So it's very interesting to watch. And I was talking to one of the education committee members about ways that she could let her horses have more free movement in her pasture. And I think one of the funniest things was she sent me a picture of herself with a chainsaw taking down the gates and the fences in between the pastures to let the horses run together. So again, like she said, I never really thought about the horses wanting to be together as a group. She said I had 2 in this field and 2 in this field, but again, that was a real good example of how all of us working with HHRF do what we know, but when we know better, we try to do better and be open to suggestions. So anyway, Anybody have any
awesome.
suggestions moving forward? Because we'd love to have some thoughts from you all to know what you were interested in.
I'm just going to take the opportunity to take it from where you left it regarding the herd and the way that your horses are so lucky to share their life. Because one of the things that it has had a really deep impact on me this past year, together in this journey together with HHRF, is the fact of collaborating, as it has been said many times, not just with the people that we like, but as well trying to reach out to the people that are doing things that we might not completely agree with, because that's where growth can happen as well. Those things that make us uncomfortable sometimes. That's on one side, and then being able to, as you said, know when you know better, do better. So always keep that student attitude. Always try to, get yourself out of your comfort zone. Question the information and the knowledge that you have, and that's why research is so important. Because that's really a game changer. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. Just reach out and keep learning.
Yeah, there's always going to be a scale of when we assess something. One of the simple thing, like, horses need movement. At one of the conferences, a woman presented she rescues horses, and she had rescued a horse that hadn't been out of its stall in 12 years. And I know, Joe, you had said you had met a horse similar to that, and you can't just take that horse and put him out and expect him to know how to cope. And so these coping skills and skills of relaxation and becoming part of a herd, they don't have to. They have to be developed and learned, and through different experiences, and this ability that we have to help teach those skills. It comes from you have one step forward. What's the first step forward? And you have to be in that present moment. So you have this horse was an older stallion that had been isolated in a box for 12 years. What do you do with that horse? And that's her presentation at this conference, was what she did with him and how she taught him to become healthy, calm, and integrated into a herd. So you got to start from where you're at and be present in that moment, physically, mentally, emotionally, and have that seeking mentality or curiosity to want to choose to take a step forward. And then that we act as a support system for whatever information that we can share through education and science and the most recent evidence-based research that will help, and being of service. And that again, that's kind of where we come from and how we can do that. And we can only do it by asking.
And I also think that with everything, a lot of people or all of you have heard about social licensing in this field, and I think the research is going to be the key to the future of the horse industry, especially when we're talking about social licensing. So I'm very excited to be on the forefront of everything that we're doing. And Pebbles, do you want to speak to what you see for next year?
Well, like you said, it is a big topic, and if you're going to explore something or you want some answers, you really need to do the research. So HHRF is all about doing the research. So we'd be excited about partnering with those who want to discover all the answers, not all the answers, but some of the answers possibly, or exploring. So yeah. I think Marcy has her hand up. She has a question.
Yeah. Marcy?
Yeah, I do. I would be more present, but I had some major dental work, so we'll just put that aside. But I just want to bring together some of the things that Joe and Kathy were saying. One is about doing the best you can, and then when you know better, do better. And the other is about understanding our horses and what they need. We've incorporated this quote that I love from Warwick Schiller into some of our presentations. And it says that every behavior has an underlying need. And when you meet that need, instead of correcting the behavior goes away. And you know, with stereotypies and things like that, it may take more than just the magic changing it, but that's a basic concept that I think we all would do well to be more mindful of, to understand what's going on with this horse, what does he need, how can we meet those needs, rather than looking at, oh, you know, he's doing this and I have to fix it. Thing.
Thanks, Marcy.
Oh,
Ooh. Well, that's all I've got. So thank you, everyone.
I was about to say thank you everyone for joining us today, and stay tuned because February we have 2 webinars, and March we have Dr. Stephen Peters. So look
Well,
forward
and
to seeing everyone and all the exciting information we're going to share.
well, and then the excitement of going to San Diego.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Thank
Pebbles,
you for joining.
I just want to
Huh?
add one more thing. If anyone on here has a topic that they're particularly interested in hearing more about, or would like us to maybe focus on or talk about, please, you can contact us. I'm sure we have the contact information somewhere that we'll share, and reach out and stay in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. All right. Well,
Thank you. Thank you very much for a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you for joining us.